Okay, everybody, this is In Thailand Expat Radio. Your featured host today is Lawyer Mark. Today, we're going to be talking about some recent entrants into the expat vlogging community, both in Thailand and the Philippines. Now, often you get vloggers who come on the scene and they're interested in posting their experiences. And maybe they're new to the country, they haven't visited that often, maybe new to Southeast Asia. Personally, I wasn't one of those. I had been visiting Thailand and Southeast Asia for a period of about 15 years for business and some vacations, never vlogged. And I lived in Thailand for 10 years before I even thought about starting a vlog. The reason being, unless you've lived in the country for a substantial amount of time, you only can talk about what you experience. When you go and make opinion statements and conclusions, particularly about the people and the culture where you are living, you are stepping off the deep end. I'm going to use two examples of this type of vlogger, one from Thailand and one from the Philippines, to illustrate my point. The first vlogger is a channel called Real Thailand Chiang Mai, and the host of that is a guy named Twitchy. You'll see this as a common theme in today's talk, is that Twitchy is ex-US military. He's a grunt, plain and simple. Now, I respect the people who go and enlist for military service. I think they do good work for the most part. I think the country mistreats them greatly, and that's both sides of the coin, Republicans and Democrats. They don't know how to deal with rewarding military service. But understand that the majority of people who enter the military service are doing it because they don't have a lot of options. Maybe they are there for the university and educational benefit they'll get, but for the most part, they're there because they didn't have anything better to do. They needed to straighten out their life, and they weren't ready to enter the private workforce. Twitchy is one of those. Twitchy came to Thailand about 7 or 8 months ago. Previously, he'd been in the Philippines for about 3 months. Despite the fact that he's completely a noob, completely new on the scene, and doesn't really have a firm grasp of the Thailand culture or people, amazingly, he ended up married to somebody who he found online. If you watch his videos, he doesn't have the best relationship with his wife. And strangely enough, although he says it was a put on, basically, he even talked about how he had a dispute with his wife. He ended up separated for a while, accused her of stealing all his property, but he claims it's now all a ruse to shake up his haters and listeners. But it's typical of what somebody who doesn't understand Thai culture would post to the public. His wife lost tremendous face when he did that. Twitchy doesn't care. Twitchy doesn't understand Thai culture. This fellow who doesn't understand Thai culture posts a lot of things about how terrible a place Pattaya is. I've worked with a lot of people in Thailand from all backgrounds, from factory workers who make minimum wage to middle class people, particularly office women who work in Bangkok and who work in the industrial estates on the eastern seaboard of Thailand that extends from Chonburi to Rayong. And these people are not ashamed of Pattaya. They're kind of proud of Pattaya. It's a great tourist destination. Yes, it has a seedy side, and they kind of giggle and laugh about that. They're not publicly open about it, but they understand it exists, and it's part of the scene. It's part of what makes Pattaya an interesting tourist destination. There's a lot of other things in Pattaya. You have tremendous restaurants, shopping, and lots of family attractions. It also brings in a lot of sports activities, including professional golf, surfing, jet skiing, and the like. The word Thai means free. Twitchy doesn't understand that. Twitchy thinks that in Thailand, he should be allowed to impose his military police state upon the citizens of Thailand, including the expat community. He races around telling people they're engaged in illegal vlogging, illegal work, that the nomads must be taken down, the ad censors must be taken down. Pattaya must be turned into a family attraction oriented destination. For Pattaya, he talks about the current head of the TAT, Tourism Authority of Thailand. He doesn't understand anything about the history of the TAT, how it works hand in hand with Hollywood, with tourism agencies, with airlines, with the hotel industry. Do you think they want to change the image of Pattaya? I don't think so. They do want to broaden its appeal, and they've been successful in doing that. And that is their goal. Because to attack Pattaya's reputation as a sex tourism capital and to attack Chiang Mai's reputation as a digital nomad capital would be to attack Thai tourism. It would be to reduce the number of arrivals to Thailand, reduce the tourism industry, which comprises 30% of the Thai economy. Yeah, Twitchy, wake up. You're a little nothing and a newbie, and you need to learn what Thailand is about before you can vlog on these subjects. Now let's turn to the Philippines. Guess what? There's another new entrant to the vlogging community in the Philippines. His channel, It Takes Two Philippines. And I believe the person's name is Dave Phelps. And guess what? Here we have another U.S. military grunt who has decided to abandon his country and run off to a lesser developed country, the Philippines. He brings the same anger that Twitchy does. He tries to impose the same kind of rule of law that is totally inapplicable to the country he has chosen to live in. And yes, he's another one who's only spent a few months in the Philippines. He's run around to many other countries with his wife that he completely discovered out of the blue. probably in Angeles. And what has this gentleman done? Well, let's take a look at his vlog, his live stream from yesterday. He goes and he invites 3 people on his live stream. The first one is a guy named Aloe from Switzerland. This guy is a foul-mouthed idiot. He makes death threats against people regularly. I'm not sure what he has to do with the Philippines. Apparently, he has some liking for ladyboys, or as they call them in the Philippines, bacalas. So you have this character. Then you have this guy named James Williams. I don't know who this dreamboat is, but apparently he's in the States, and he has very strange opinions, and we'll go into those. Finally, he has someone else on his panel. It's a woman. I don't know her name, but we'll go into what this wildebeest was talking about with this topic. It was about a 2-hour live stream about another expat Philippines vlogger whose name is Bebots Only. Now, Bebots Only doesn't have the most upstanding channel. He does try to depict poor young Filipino girls who are in need of help, and he tries to connect his community to support those girls and buy them, whether it's food, dental work, educational supplies, perhaps tuition. There is absolutely zero evidence that there's any kind of pedophilia going on. Let's go through what transpired during this discussion of supposedly rational experts in this field. The first thing they do is talk about the age of consent in the Philippines. Just so you know my background, I'm an international attorney. I've worked in Thailand for 10 years as legal counsel in HR. When I was in law school, I studied comparative Asian Pacific Island legal systems, and that's kind of my expertise. That's why I ended up in the Asia Pacific area. The age of consent is 12 years old in the Philippines. And fortunately, It Takes Two Philippines admitted that. Yet he has someone on his panel called the Professor, who knows who this guy is. But the Professor tried to claim that there's also a 10-year maximum age gap between somebody of the age of 12 and 18 and then the other consensual partner to the sexual relationship in order for it to be legal. That 10-year gap, the 10-year age gap, never became law in the Philippines. It was discussed and it was debated about 2 years ago. It never became law. And this professor spent 30 minutes on the show trying to find whether it was the law, and blank. He didn't come up with anything. And, you know, if they had a real legal expert on their panel, they would have discovered that. Doesn't take a genius to find it, but it does take someone well-versed in law to understand the two legal systems involved, because there is a United States interplay as well. With the age of consent, there is also a part of the regulation, part of the law says that in order for the relationship to be consensual, It has to not be for monetary compensation, other kind of compensation, what in legal terms is called quid pro quo. And that's where a lot of the foreigners, if the foreigners are offering some kind of compensation, money, food in exchange for sex with someone between the age of 12 and 18, that's going to be a violation of the consent law in the Philippines. It has another aspect, an interplay with US law. And that interplay is that if, as a foreigner in another country, you are prosecuted for a violation of that country's sexual consent laws, you then can be prosecuted in America. Somebody I know went to high school with, he was a couple of years ahead of me, and I actually was a tutor for his younger sister in public speaking. He went to the Philippines, I'm sorry, he went to Cambodia and had sexual relations with underage girls. He was prosecuted for it and then sent back to America, where he was also prosecuted for it. And he was basically given a 80-year sentence. He's away for life. He will not make it out before he dies. So there is that interplay. Now, what these characters on It Takes Two Philippines were trying to say, this panel, they basically accused B-bots only of pedophilia. Like I said, they had absolutely zero evidence of it. This is somebody who takes videos of treating young Filipino girls to food, to shopping trips, paying for dental visits. There's absolutely nothing to show that there is any kind of sexual advances going on. And here you have James Williams. He's on there saying this guy should be drawn and quartered. He's committed a crime. He's a pedophiliac. Total nonsense. Then you have the wildebeest, the unnamed wildebeest, and she's crying about how terrible it is that there's a 12-year-old age of consent in the Philippines. Let's just take a step back and look at what age of consent is. Before the year 1900, before the 20th century started, there was no age of consent. It didn't exist. A terrible thing happened in the US and the UK in the early 20th century. It's called the Victorian Moral Revolution. And these Victorians basically imposed their moral code upon the world. In the United States, you saw recreational drugs like marijuana and cocaine being made illegal, gambling being made illegal, prostitution being made illegal, alcohol prohibition made illegal. The president at the time was Woodrow Wilson. As you know, I appreciate and celebrate freedom. That's what Thai means, freedom. Making these things illegal was a deprivation of liberty. I'm a libertarian, I'll admit that. These were the worst things that happened in the history of America, the history of the UK, and they imposed these moral codes on the world. Now, what they did with the age of consent was they allowed each jurisdiction to come up with their own age of consent based on their culture. Every state in the United States has a different age of consent. Some are as low as 14 or 15. In Thailand, I believe the age of consent is 14. maybe 15. In the Philippines, it's 12. That's what their cultures and working with their legislatures dictated. Personally, I strongly believe that what a legislature does, what's in a constitution, what the judges in the courts do, should be respected. I may differ with it, but I respect it. This wildebeest broke out in tears because the age of consent in the Philippines was 12. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever experienced in a live stream or vlog. So you have Aloe and James Williams accusing Bebots Only of being a pedophiliac, a pedophile. And you have the wildebeest saying that he's grooming these girls. And what is he grooming them for? Well, apparently, a long time in the past, Bebots Only did connect Filipino girls on his site that had been supported with some expats. The girls he connected were over the age of 18, totally legal. All he did was introduce them and allow the expats to see if they were suitable for going further with some kind of relationship. Now, again, Bebots does some creepy things. I think he makes people uncomfortable, not just the girls he's with, but also his audience. And he could do a lot better job editing his video so that it doesn't basically steal the images of these girls, particularly because the subjects of his video have changed their demographics. Before, it was university age girls who were, in Filipino terms, were not poor. And now the girls he's brought on are definitely mostly under the age of 18. He does do it with parental consent. The parents get, some benefit from this, but he does tend to record too much image and publish too much image of these girls, and I think that that's wrong. Is he a pedophile? I've seen absolutely zero evidence. And Dave Phelps, you should be embarrassed because you have zero evidence, and you and your panel basically accused him of being a pedophile, which is a violation of Filipino libel laws. Read the libel law. It's just like America. I've read the entire Filipino code because I had to do a comparison between California codes and Filipino codes. They're almost exactly the same. The Philippines code was taken from America when it was an American colony. Therefore, its libel law reads just like American libel law, which is basically if you accuse somebody of a crime, that's considered libel per se. And truth is a defense. Dude, where's your proof? Yeah, you got a libel problem. You also have another problem on your channel. During the live stream, you apparently received an email where somebody threatened your life. And you went on a rant saying, don't threaten my life. I don't allow that, da 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 da. You did that rant at the end of your show too. I won't allow people threatening lives. Two of your panelists on that same show threatened the life of Bebots Only. Those people were Aloe and James Williams, the Dreamboat. I don't know where you get these guys. I think it's disingenuous that you talk about not allowing people to threaten lives, and two of your guests do exactly that. You need to clean up your act. Bebots Only has been a long time vlogger in the Philippines. He's lived in the Philippines a long time. He is by ethnicity a Filipino. He's a dual citizen. But again, this is another army grunt trying to impose his military rule and his belief in the legal system upon a culture and country he doesn't understand. Guys like Twitchy and guys like Dave Phelps, you have no business vlogging about these kinds of things. You can vlog about your travel experiences. You can vlog about having to deal with getting a driver's license or going to a government office or going to the hospital. But when it comes to discussing the politics, the culture, and the people of your country, listen up, learn, experience. When you've been in your country of choice long enough, then you can start discussing it. One vlogger I was particularly impressed with, a vlogger I don't follow, is Kevin Thailand. Kev has been in Thailand for just under 2 years, and I listened to him on being interviewed by Video Freedom. And Twitchy's been on Video Freedom. I've been on Video Freedom. Aaron is a good interviewer. He's fair. He lets you express yourself. He asks good questions. He's very intelligent. I can easily discuss legal things with him. He has an excellent knowledge of law. You don't have to be a lawyer to understand law, but you do have to have a lot of reading and learning in order to understand how it applies. Now, Kevin Thailand gave very good information. He's kind of an expert on Pattaya and the places there, and on being a retired person in Pattaya. And he had some good information. I really enjoyed listening to him. He's somebody who has now been in Thailand long enough to start talking about the people and the culture. Twitchy, Dave Phelps, you have not been. And your military background does you a great disservice because you're rules oriented, you're regimented, and you don't understand. Be quiet about that. You can vlog, talk about things that you know about, but don't try to impose your will, your belief system on something you don't understand. This has been In Thailand Expat Radio and your host, Lawyer Mark. Have a good day.